Yeah, Mike, did you want to dive into the AI narrative and everything that's happening in the world of AI? For those who don't know, Swissy is the ICP AI wizard in this community. So if you want, we could segue into some talk about AI on chain.
Sounds great. Like off the rip, I kind of see it affecting algorithms in markets and in the world in general. The resolution is just so low still at this point, but through this inference, the way I interpret it is agents and AIs able to make sense of the world and perhaps create investment theses faster, better, more accurately, more reliable than a human alone. I'd like to see large portions of folks in the ICP community leveraging inference in some way to generate low but consistent monthly returns in a way that's controlled by the DAO. The opportunities, the potential campaigns, again, with no CEO, no board of directors, no corporate shareholders, no roof, no rent. So there's going to be an opportunity for this middleman to appear. And whether it's a middleman leveraging your stock investments or your local market for whatever your products or services are, or if you're just a random person looking to capitalize on what's taking place in the world, I kind of see this inference thing being a key part. And now that we're seeing the cost to generate an OpenAI competitor coming down, perhaps the engine behind this type of inference slowly trends down and down, making it more economically possible, leveraging things like canisters with the potential to store this data, have perhaps the smaller language models working together. Really low resolution at this moment, but really interesting nonetheless. What do you think about that, Swissy?
Yeah, I think, well, one, the idea of an SNS run investment handling, I think, is phenomenal, especially the way that the SNS is designed. Basically, you would all pitch in some ICP, and then the AI goes and brings in returns. But once you get into kind of the trading sets that you can get and the data that you can provide it, then you're combining real time, say all of Twitter, say if you're focusing on crypto, you get all the real time data, you know how people react. And then with algorithms and trading things, you can back test, which you go back and you can actually test early on. So you can take your earlier tweets or whatever, compare it to how the market's doing, and then now you basically have a way of producing this data for the LLMs. And again, LLMs are extremely good at predicting next tokens, right? The next word. So once you connect like all the social side of, and it's not an easy thing to do. It's definitely like a whole bunch of data that you need, but you're looking at large firms, say OpenAI or something that's closed source, and they want to keep it to themselves. And now they're even going to become for profit. It's extremely dangerous, I think, the path that we're headed on that side. And then on the other side, you have open source, you have on chain, you have transparency, you have guarantees to run. They can't just shut down your AI. Say you have an AI now that's an agent or whatever, and it's making sure that you get medicine, your health, pretty much everything. It knows more about you than you do. And now you have a for profit company. Who knows? Are they going to make you sick? Are they going to give you what's not actually best for you, but what's best for them? Are you working for an enterprise and they're going to clone you? So now, because they cloned you while you worked for that enterprise, they actually own that agent. Now they don't need you and they can live off of this digital version of yourself. So all these things, like they're going to be real problems. And I think the best way to solve it is on chain. That's where this magic, unanticipated connection between crypto and I comes from. A lot of people, like in terms of investment, say like AI16Z and boosting with Solana and everything. I think you get so much more development, and there's so many crack devs that are out there. Excuse me, and then working towards this open source AGI It's a noble endeavor, and it's something that's becomes extremely valuable and extremely essential for where we're headed. Where if you have an AGI, an intelligence that's for profit for a single company, who do you think it's going to profit from? Probably a bunch of us. Like where's the money going to come from? And then you have certain things like where you could have it be transparent and more on chain. But in terms of currently what I think about like the SNS DAO and ICP and agents doing that kind of trading, I think it's there. I think most of the building blocks of how to achieve that is already here. But then you have the securities. You have the downside of, okay, like the algorithm that's now getting your groceries, Amazon for whatever reason doesn't support it anymore. They need more profit. That's more of a drastic case, but it's still a vulnerability, right? A point of failure, which with ICP, right, the big narrative is removing these points of failure. You apply that to AI, and it's insanely valuable. Like you have OpenAI goes down, and you have everybody who doesn't know how to code anymore. Like maybe Stack Overflow gets a redemption, and then people are like, "Oh, wait a minute, this thing was actually like we don't give it as much respect as we should." With OpenAI training, excuse me, a lot of data from them, and then now we have a model, DeepSeek, that was trained on synthetic data. So it wasn't any data that was there. They went from the flow of OpenAI first training on everything, which they're getting in trouble now because there isn't those regulations. We're in an unoptimized internet environment, and it's unoptimized for the purpose of AI. And then as we're transitioning to ICP, this is now an AI optimized environment where the entire thing is you have the safeguards, you have the ownership, you have the guarantees, and you have this all within the smart contract environment. Deterministic. Like it's what they've done is incredible. I don't think they necessarily planned for the AI boom that we've seen. But again, like you have the same tamper proof environment, but applied to AI becomes insanely valuable. So for context with DeepSeek, you go from all the data on the internet. That's what OpenAI trained their models with. And then you have some system prompts or whatever, and then you get the model. So you can tweak the systems and everything. You can tweak the weights and all of that. But we don't know what OpenAI is using. But we know the data that OpenAI can produce because we're using it. Like every time we have an output, that's data that's produced. Okay, so now at a massive scale, you can produce this synthetic data, right? This generated data. So now you take this generated data that's maybe twice, 3 times, 4, 10 times as big as all the data on the internet or whatever. And then you put it into the model. So that's with DeepSeek. But then with DeepSeek, what you don't know is the system prompts that they've had in between the outputs. So say, what is it, Xi Jinping or whatever, right? Like you can't, the model does not respond to certain things. So there is bias where you've had things that are pretty much not hard coded, but you over and over again with this training data set, you have this callback to the system prompt, which kind of it's chained. Like you have shackles around this model, but you can't see those. They've done a phenomenal job open sourcing, and I think all the weights and people can reproduce it. Meta right now is definitely running around thinking where they went wrong, which is most likely bureaucracy with a bunch of VPs and making sure they go by the book. But with something like DeepSeek, like it opens the door to, so for context, it's a reasoning model that is just as good in certain aspects as OpenAI's closed source, which you're paying ridiculous amounts. So I think it's like a 60x reduction in costs. So now what that means is everybody is using it. Everybody is using it. It's the new shift. It's the new paradigm for all these AI developers around the world. And they've open sourced it. They shared the weights and they shared how to do it. It's an incredible gift to the open source community. And I think now Meta will improve, sure. And it's less about China this or US or all these kind of political things. I really see it more as this shift between closed source and open source AI and what you can see, who's profiting off what, where the transparency is. But again, there's certain things that you don't know. And the reason why you don't know is because it's not on chain. It's not on ICP. You can't find the exact updates that's going on. You can't find the training set. You can't find the data. You can't point to it. It still continues to be a black box. But what ICP gives you, if you inference on chain, excellent. I think end game for ICP is probably the entire cycle of the AI. So you get the training, probably even pre-training, and then I think there's something in between that and inference. All of that on chain means that if there's anything that goes wrong, you can pinpoint back to what happened, or you can follow along. So the transparency is there. Transparency, security, these benefits for AI are not, it's not like a tool. It's not like, oh, like you can use this if you want to. Eventually it becomes you can only use it in this environment. Like, not necessarily, they're not necessarily rogue AI, but like even locally, like you run your local model, you try to do certain things. It's very difficult to then start having trillions of dollars transacted on something that can go down. Like you have a point of failure, but you go into this chain that's never gone down within a smart contract. So it's deterministic and guaranteed to run. Yeah, there's a lot of value there.